Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learned along the way. Well, hello everyone and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today I am introducing you to Angel Tuccy, who is a media exposure specialist. We're going to hear all things about how to actually, make your impact big. How do you create a big, huge presence? She is the guru in this area. She's got proven systems that she uses to teach entrepreneurs and authors and speakers how to actually attract media and publicity to their business, their brand. I'm going to let her share all of her expertise. Welcome to my program, Angel.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, Annie. This has been a long time coming. Thank you so much for the invitation.
It is such a pleasure. And it has been a long time coming. I remember I met you, I connected up with you first when we actually were working on my biography, Becoming Annie, biography of a curious woman. And so my gorgeous author there, Dawn Bates, actually connected me to you, and you were instrumental in actually getting those media releases out. So it's amazing in the world of interconnections of who's doing what, who finds each other. And it's really great to be able to have this opportunity to share what pretty much you did for me. How does someone like me find someone like you, and what do you do for people globally in this kind of space of media exposure? So how about you just introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us, what does a day in the life of Angel look like? What do you actually dabble in every day, and how does that make other businesses come alive?
Oh, well, yeah, it's very glamorous to be in the world of Angel, right? And I'm walking the red carpet and I'm on, right? Like all this. No, it's, it's a pretty normal day. But what I discovered, I was actually a talk show radio host for over 10 years out of Denver, Colorado in the United States. And every single day we would interview authors and experts and do media features for small business owners. And when I left broadcasting, well, while I was doing broadcasting, I just had such a heart and a passion for small business owners, authors and entrepreneurs. And I saw how powerful exposure could be for a small business owner. And so many small businesses, at least the statistics here in the United States, are just staggering of how quickly a business can close, or even for entrepreneurs, not really taking a paycheck, not making the money that they thought they would. And it's a big market out there. How do you set yourself apart? Well, being on the insider in broadcasting, I saw how powerful that media exposure, especially radio and podcasting, could be. So when I left broadcasting, I had this opportunity to go and reinvent myself, right? Be anything in the world I wanted to be at that point. I was 48 years old. I was becoming an empty nester. And I decided I wanted to stay in this space of helping that entrepreneur, that small business owner, get that leg up, build their business one to many using the power of media interviews. And so when I meet an author who's written a book, like, you think the hardest part is writing that book and getting the book out, but now we want to sell that book, and who do we sell it to, and how do we create the exposure for that? So I started teaching my media mastery program and traveling and speaking and sharing just with authors all over the globe, mostly in the United States, but a few internationally, on how to leverage the power of what I call OP. Well, now I call it OPS, other people's stages, other people's audiences, other people's media platforms, doing media interviews and leveraging press releases to create that publicity and buzz for your story.
Oh, I absolutely love it, and I've got so many questions brewing straight away. But that's what it's like. You elevate your brand by association, don't you? You know, actually getting on those platforms, and I've certainly had that benefit by being on global platforms with other women, and particularly in women's summits in my sector. And so by being there and being a part of their networks, then it's a ripple effect of exposure. I'd love to ask you then, from when you were, I know I read, you know, you've done, you know, more than 5,000, probably way more interviews on radio. So you've had this decade of watching other people have this opportunity to shine, right? And we often think, or those that I coach certainly say, oh, well, those people are lucky. They've been given an opportunity, or they're connected. How does the person who, you know, backtrack there, you would have interviewed people who are already in that space, that they've created a book, or they're being on interviewed on a podcast to be able to get that exposure. So they've had a little bit of a journey. When you actually went out on your own, were you immediately thinking there would be people of similar stature, or did you actually have to go back a little bit and think, the average person just starting a business, how do they create that? You know, there's a stepping stone there, right? How do they have that opportunity to have their status elevated, amplified, if you like?
Absolutely. And I did have to discover, I had to step back a little bit, because a lot of times when people think about, you know, I'm going to get on television, I'm going to be on radio, I want to sell my stuff, right? I want to sell my products. Well, you can't sell when you're being interviewed as a guest if you haven't paid for the advertising. We're not going to fill your events, right? We're not going to sell your stuff. And so there was a little bit of a disconnect, but I will tell you, you can have as much exposure as your advertising budget will allow. I mean, you could have a bus on the or a billboard on the highway, on buses, on buildings. The benefit of leveraging and being an author opens up doors for media exposure that any other opportunity, you know, better than any other opportunity. And the reason is because there is one thing you can sell in a media interview, and it is your book. As an author, they will let you sell books. They won't let you sell courses or programs or event tickets or your household goods. They will let you sell books. And so as an author, you can often get invited into media, to do media interviews for free, not a paid for ad, not as a paid for spot, and they will promote your book. And so I discovered, or I started telling everybody, as a published author, it's the number one way to create this media opportunity. So publish your book. Go, you have a story, share your story, publish it, because it does open the doors for unpaid, right? Free media stages all day long. And a lot of times people will tell you that there's no money in the book. I don't know if that's the story over across the pond, but they would say to us, and I believed it for the longest time, the money's in the back end, the money's in the clients, the money's in the opportunities and the introductions. But I will tell you what, there's a lot of money in selling books, and a book is the easiest thing for you to sell. It's a $20, $25 item. It's easy for anybody to say yes to. And so with a microphone in one hand and a book in the other, honestly, you have an entire platform to make some residual money, right? Passive income, without having to take on more clients. It is true passive income. Sell your knowledge, not your time. If you were to sell in an interview, if you were to sell 25 copies of your book in a media interview, and you did that a couple times a week, that adds up to over 200 books. It's $4,000 US dollars in just going out and doing media interviews and selling books. I could go on in that space. I'm sure that's not the direction we wanted to go. There's money in books, and there's media in books and being an author.
I totally resonate with that. And I was told that same story. Don't bother doing books, Annie. There's no money in the books. Whereas now I'm like, even it doesn't even have to be a masterpiece book. It could be just small ebooks, and I've got that. I've probably got 50 ebooks that I've written just as part of my courses that I've now converted to Amazon. That it might even be just $2 here or there for someone, like $2 to $4 for a small little ebook of some gems. But that's passive income, right? And it's also so one, you want that out. Why wouldn't you? Someone might not be ready to commit to your full program, but they might go, okay, well, I'll get a little bit of a few top tips. Everyone wants top tips, and those little dollars add up. And now we have a global platforms, which are just fantastic, that anywhere in the world people can be buying your books. And also, I totally agree with what you've said there, Angel, that, by having that book, that is the opportunity. It might not just be that sale, but it's the opportunity to have the authority or that executive presence, if you like, in your space to be asked for that interview. And I'll be introduced as Annie of the author of, this book, or, as a #1 best-selling author. So it's actually allowed you to stamp your authority in that space. And I think that is probably a big area that you're helping people on their journey to say, well, what makes you different? What makes you say, you can say you're the authority, but if your competitor has 10 books, has got their own podcast, they've got this and that, why is that believable? It's more believable if you've got the evidence of your authority.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I was doing some research not too long ago, and 84% of Americans, and remember, I'm over here, but 84% of Americans want to write a book, want to publish a book.
Wow.
And only 1% are published authors. So so we all have a story. And I would, when I first started traveling and speaking, I would sit in an audience or sit on stage and ask the audience, how many here have published, and you have a handful of hands. How many of you would like to become a published author, have a book inside of you? And almost all the hands would go up.
Yeah.
But taking that leap, being brave enough to put your story in print and publish it, because Annie, it's very vulnerable. You can't say, I didn't say that. Well, here it is on page 17. Yes, you did, right here, da, da, da. Right? It is the ultimate. You're saying it, you're putting it in print, you're publishing it. You have to be very brave to take that step. And it's a lot of work to craft the story and to craft those chapters and to have it edited that it's going to read nicely for your reader. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of effort that goes into it. But I will tell you, on the other side of it, there's an entire world that opens up to you, that is only open up to you because you are a published author.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as an author, I've got one at the publisher at the moment. Actually, I've just written a book on twins because, as you know, I had 2 sets of twins 2 years apart. And so here I am, my twins are now 31 and 29. And I'm like, well, now I've actually got time to write that book that I always wanted to, but who's got time when you've got 4 little kids under 2 1/4? Let's face it. And also, if I did have time, that every other woman would have hated me, because who does that? But anyway, it's kind of interesting that that's exactly it. I had a life dream of, I want to actually write this for other women doing my walk, my journey, right? And so here I've had 30 years of planning and desire, but when you actually start writing it and writing your stories, vulnerability, that word that you use, oh my gosh, it exposes you raw. Will they like this story? Have I communicated it? If I write my story, will they say that doesn't happen, or it didn't happen like that for me? All of a sudden exposes your insecurities, writing something that's been your lived experience, but is it how everyone else's lived experience will be different, and how will they receive that? Open yourself up to criticism, all that sort of thing.
All of it.
Then once you've done all of that, and it's emotional to the max, to actually then have it out and go, well, this is my journey, and I own it, and I live and breathe it. And then suddenly, in 6 months later, I could be the twin expert of the world.
Absolutely.
well, that's her story. She owns it. She's written it. She's put a stamp on it, and then it opens up. That's right, interviews and other opportunities that sometimes you can't even fathom. You must have had that someone comes in there just to talk about their book, and then you watch their career journey, and then crazy things that they couldn't have even imagined.
All the time, story after story after story, and it's pretty unbelievable, because you think you're going one direction or it's going to be this, but the opportunities, and especially for you as a mother of twins, if I was to do a Google search, and I have twins who are going to be 29 this year, Annie, so I didn't realize we had that. But if I was to do just a media search on what are the opportunities to be speaking about twins in the media, if I look up that, there's 206. Oh, well, see, I'm going to have to change it because it all comes to our Minnesota Twins baseball team. So, right. So if I say mother of twins, right, that might narrow that down a little bit. 23 million results, 23.7 million results of media opportunities that are covering being a mother of twins. Mm-hmm. And so we can start to craft and create this organic media database for you, Annie. And when we reach out to them and say, here's Hollywood Life and People, right? People, The Independent, New York Post, Florida Today. These are all media opportunities and outlets that are talking about, and well, in fact, isn't Princess Kate Middleton's now pregnant with twins?
Yes, I know. I'll have to give her a copy of my book.
Absolutely. And so as there are journalists covering that story, they might want to ask another mother of twins for a quote or some tips or what are some things that you think Kate might be dealing with and feeling right now? And as the author of the book, it's easier for them to find you. You are deemed more credible and the authority on the space because you've covered the book and it's a bestseller. And of course, we're going to reach out to Annie Gibbins, and she's had 2 sets of twins, not just one. But putting it in publishing it gives us all this media opportunity. So lots of opportunities for us to go and connect and build relationships with journalists as soon as you're ready.
I'll be coming your way. Don't you worry, Angel. I've just got a couple more months for it to get through all the hoops, and then it will be on the market. And that's exactly it. After experiencing your services, you can tell that it's not just having that moment. I think once you do it, and you get your book and it's in print, and you go, oh my gosh, I want to share it. There's this moment of 2 minutes of fame, and then it's like, how is it actually being presented in the media? And that's right. So it comes up on Google searches and all the SEO behind that, and all the hashtags, and getting it to those right places, getting it to those key markets, those key influential contacts that you have. You've got the book, you've got the contacts, that they listen to you because of, once again, your reputation, not because of what you're promoting at that time. There's such a whole sort of organism that's actually germinating there that is amazing, and it is so vital to get that exposure. I'd love to ask you a little question then. How did you, I remember reading about you, and you spent about 10 years working for golfers in the TGA, so how does this woman sort of spend 10 years there? I'm assuming while you're raising your kids, you've got the normal day job, if you like. How do you go from there to then becoming this radio queen? I noticed you were, voted your American Business radio show was voted, the most popular at its time. And so how do you go on that journey from a day job to a radio queen to now a media specialist? How did that all happen for the other mums listening in going, interesting journey?
It is a very interesting journey. My son, so I have twin daughters, and then my son is 4 years younger, and my son I think he was about 9 months old, and I was given an opportunity to work part-time for the PGA. They just needed somebody to cover kind of the lunch hour, just answering the phones, doing some reception work. And Michael was a very needy little boy, and I just needed a break. And I thought I would love to just have 4 hours, a couple days a week out of the house. And so I said yes to this job working for a golf tournament. And my role just expanded after working there. I ended up working there for 10 years. I became the player liaison. So I booked all the hotel accommodations for all the players and the sponsors and the vendors. We booked thousands of hotel rooms all up and down the highway corridor. And it was a really fun opportunity for me to just grow with my skill set. And I have that administrative background. I'm great, very organized, filing systems, keeping track of things, and fairly personable, right, on the phone and with customer service. And so I developed into a really fun role with the PGA until they closed down. And so that golf tournament was the International in Castle Pines in up until they shut down. And so then I was hired as an admin for a professional speaker, and he just needed some admin work, getting help getting booked for his public speaking. And I started researching and studying how to do that. And I was a very shy, behind the scenes girl, fear of public speaking, the whole thing. But so that it just ended up evolving, where he and I ended up becoming business partners, and I would help him to put together his productions and his presentations. And then I started helping him do his presentations, and we started tag teaming. And somebody in the audience said, you guys should start your own podcast. So we started a podcast, and our podcast got discovered by our local radio station. And we ended up hosting a business talk show. And by the end of my decade long in broadcasting, I was then hosting 2 talk shows every day, still co-hosting and doing our business talk show, most positive business talk show in America. We were award-winning. We won best talk show, best talk show team, best morning talk show, like all sorts of fun awards. And then I was also the host of a second 2-hour Christian lifestyle show, where we were talking to moms in minivans in the carpool lane in the afternoons. And so it was just like a series of events of now here's this opportunity, now here's this opportunity, now here's this one. And I just developed into it. And so when I left broadcasting, because they'd made a change in the studio, came in and said, Angel, you're no longer on the air, 5 minutes before I was scheduled to go and do 2 back-to-back shows. So I was in the studio for 4 hours. I decided I was going to go and help entrepreneurs and authors leverage media exposure, because it was so good for business. And Annie, that's when I discovered that I was in the top 1% of my industry. I didn't know it. I was just showing up for work every day, saying yes to opportunities, doing the best that I could, delivering, the best that I can. But then I realized there was less than a dozen women across the country who hosted 4 hours of talk radio. Actually, there's less than a dozen hosts, right? Period, that host 4 hours of talk radio, and even less of them are women. So that's what put me in that top 1%. And that's kind of the energy that I took off into the world. I'm like, well, if I did it for them, I can do it for you.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love this journey, because there's so many aspects that actually get discussed through my coaching programs and on my tribe, like day in, day out. And that is leaning into your empowered future, just following your gifts, seizing opportunities. Sometimes you can't even see the end goal, right? So some of us have these dream of, this is who I want to be. Did Angel dream at 18 that I want to be a media specialist? Do I want to do that? No, but I'm hearing very clearly that, you were friendly, you were helpful, you love customer service, you actually had found, developing admin skills, you knew that you were organizing, and you loved being things, creating things, making things happen. So in that journey, you know, for those listening in, you know, this is actually a really great learning that what you were doing is, that's right. I love that. As a fellow mum, that's one of the reasons I did my master's degree, because I could go off to uni for 4 hours and have a break. You know, we all do start things for different reasons. But with that, you actually went, well, while I'm here, I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to develop and grow. And also being, you know, feeling like you're the weakest link in the room, if you like, you know, what can I do for all these other amazing people? You know, even when you were starting that radio show, to actually help someone else out. And then realizing as you're developing, I love the revelation that you had, that you didn't actually get the light bulb until you realize you're in the top 1%. And I had that same sort of revelation of suddenly realizing I was a leader after I'd been doing things for like 15 years, and went, oh my gosh, I think I've got leadership skills. And then everyone else went, oh, you think? You know, like, it's amazing how some people go and claim this, I am amazing, and then mainly men, and then others actually go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that over this breadth of time and work and efforts and, you know, laughter and tears, I actually have now positioned myself that I have all of this availability to just, you know, make the most of it and to love my life. Yeah. So what a incredible journey that you have had. Let's talk about then the people that you serve, the people that you have impacted in, you know, now your joy to be this media queen. You know, someone comes to you and so they may have done a book, whatever. How have you, give us a couple of scenarios of people that you've actually, you just go, oh my gosh, I've helped them change their life. I've helped them achieve their dreams, to get that branding, to get that exposure, because it's great for your business as a businesswoman, let's face it, but it's actually fantastic. It's just a joy, isn't it, to actually help people have those moments and then be part of their journey.
I tell people I have the best job in the world because I get to be the sharer of their good news. So when something good happens, they text me, Angel, I published my book. Angel, my book's a bestseller. Angel, I'm speaking on this event. I got this, right? And so all of that, I get to be the receiving end, because let's put that into a press release. Let's create that announcement, that media news. And so every day I get to hear some of these little behind the scenes. So for example, we had a client who was invited to decorate the White House for the holidays.
Yeah.
I mean, how exciting is that? And just this last weekend, Annie, so 2 years ago, I met a woman and her husband, and right at the onset of the pandemic, we lost her husband to a brain tumor. And they were both getting ready to write their books, but then life took a very different turn. She just this last February, just a few months ago, published her book on grief and loss and what it was like to lose Jim and come out of it. She just spoke this last weekend, her first speaking event to a women's empowerment group. There were 200 women in the room. She had her first book signing event at that event. So her big coming out party, and it was in the town that her and her husband had established roots. And so the town knew them, but they did not know this story because of the pandemic. For the last 2 years, they've all been disconnected. And here she comes out with this brave story, with a book. She's created a journal, and this gave her something to do, right? It gave her something to focus on, so all during Jim's, while he was sick, she journaled the whole process, and she would just keep me in the loop. And there was nothing we were creating at the time. We were just processing and going through it. And when she was ready, she was able to turn that story into, she's turning that story into something very powerful, and helping people who have lost a job, a loved one, a pet, because grief is universal. And everybody's gone through it. And, and then we have Connie, who she wrote the book on joy, and that what you say, be careful what you say, your body is listening. And she has been able to just transform her thoughts and helping people just rethink about what you say to yourself, and how you can create joy simply with your thoughts and moving your body. And so, she gets invited to speak. Her local media shares her stories. During the pandemic, she created all these videos for her clients. She teaches Pilates, and she's just a rock star in her space. Wendy Labatt, Dr. Wendy Labatt,
Oh, no way.
right? She came to me 2-3 years ago, and she had an idea. She is now an 8-time best-selling author. She's in 8 different books. She speaks every week. She does 2 podcasts a week. She speaks on summits. She has her own TV show now. She's getting ready to launch her 2nd season of a TV show. She's up for an award for a podcast that she was on. She's
phenomenal.
I have the best world. I have the best job. I have the best job in the world.
You really do have the best job. And Wendy's been on my podcast here. So those of you listening in, go back and listen in to Wendy's podcast, because that's exactly it. I think she was just doing her first book with you when I interviewed her. So I just suddenly flip back and go, oh my gosh, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And then suddenly I see that's right. Sometimes it's just the catalyst, right? When you had that first big moment, you just suddenly get, and that's all the scary moment. But once you've done that, the world just opens up, and then opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And she is an absolute rock star. She's just leaned into, well, where will this take me? It's not scary. The fear goes away once you've actually sort of confronted it and you've dealt with those issues. And then suddenly you become fearless. You just go, oh, okay, well, here's another opportunity and another opportunity. I love what you were saying about that, the lady who journaled through a time of incredible grief, and that journey, that sometimes, that's right, that journal will just be yours, and then sometimes because you did journal that, then you've captured every single raw moment and emotion, and then it can become your blog series, it can become a book, it can become, what you write a course on, you specialize in. Who's to say? It could be all of those, those of us who are in many different platforms of media. You just never know where that's going to come. And I feel that too, is when you've had that experience, that's right, you feel like you're all alone. You feel like you're the only one having this experience. And then suddenly you put it out and go, oh my gosh, you'll get all these people going, oh, thank goodness if someone else relates to me. Thank goodness, I don't feel as alone, because, be a bit like us, the twin mums experience, going, someone who understands what it was like, someone who has, had that moment of a person passing, particularly during COVID, where so many more have tragically had that experience. Absolutely incredible. What have been your biggest learnings then, Angel, as becoming this amazing entrepreneur? You've had a huge growth trajectory. What has been the biggest challenges for you? What have you had to really lean in and believe for yourself is truly possible?
Oh, that's a great question, Annie. I think, like, even though you have all the accolades and all the check boxes, like, I'm just me, right? And I think realizing that just the thing that I love to do, and so I use this phrase a lot of times, that what you think is ordinary is magic to other people. And so for me, I think what I do is ordinary. I remember thinking that, well, do people need to learn how to get on, do media interviews? I mean, you just talk, right? You just do. But our gifts, because they come so naturally to us, we forget how valuable they are to other people and to the world. So number one, just remembering that, this people want to know this.
Yes.
And so write it down, journal it, record the video, put it together into a course, teach it to other people. They want to know this. And I forget that. And pricing, right? Like, charge for your expertise and put it in a package and put it in a bundle, and you can create, you can monetize on your knowledge, and also to be smarter about my time. It's really easy for me to just work because I love it. And so taking those times and reminding myself to schedule downtime, schedule a lunch break. How's that? I mean, these are silly little things, I know, but I would just work right through meal times.
Yeah.
And I will work through work. And so I have to put real boundaries on my work day. I turn my phone off at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and I don't turn it, well, like my email part, right? And my computer off 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and I don't turn it back on until Monday. And I have to almost force myself to go have fun, right? and to have a life. And I know that probably seems really ridiculous, but I love what I do. It fuels me, it feeds me, it gives me the energy to like, not that other things don't, but I get such a sense of purpose that it's easy for me to fill in the day. So go and have a life, Angel, outside of work. It's okay.
Oh, I thank you so much for sharing that reality, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs listening in will go, yeah, that's me. I certainly put my hand up and go, because you love what you're doing. You know, you're purpose driven, you're heart led. You just absolutely go, I can't believe I get paid for this job, because I do love it. And therefore you're at the risk then of doing it 24/7, but that's what the balance is about. When you've then got other things, it's like, yeah, you get such a joy and such a buzz. It's easy to get lost in it, but also it's about making intentional choices to say, no, I need to see my family, I need to have date nights, I need to see my friends, I need to stay healthy physically. It can be a big challenge, actually, the other part of the balance against with what you're actually doing for the day job, which you do get when you're the 9-to-5 job. You get that separation, whereas your work is always there. You've always got people texting you, sharing their great news, sharing the new opportunity, and so forth. So you've now written 15 books in your journey. Oh my gosh. Now, why is that so important? Is that another thing of you staying at, in that top niche in your industry, that, more books, more presence, or is it that you've actually just got more topics to write about? You're like, I didn't believe I had to write a book on this or this or this. What led you, and how many books do you think you've got in you?
So I did my first one, and it was Lists That Saved My Life. It was all about that work-life balance. And then I did a second one on Lists That Saved My Business. That was more in the business sense. And I kind of thought I might do a handful of books over the course of my lifetime. And then I got to a place where I thought, if I just had 10, right? 10 would be amazing. I think I had done 6 or 7 by that point. And so there's no, I mean, some people just have their one book and live on that, and like, that's it. And it keeps selling. But I keep getting different opportunities, or different ways of saying what I said before, or a different idea. In this last one, I did it as a group. We were working together. There were all these people around me said, I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to write a book. And so during 2020, we came together with 12 different, it happened to all be women, 12 authors who had all wanted to write a book, and said, we're going to do it all together at the same time. And so we, like, all the milestones we hit all together. Here's our title, here's our cover, here's our chapter content. Here's the day we're all publishing, here's the day we're all turning it into a bestseller campaign. And they all came to my house. And so number 15, I wrote because I wanted to be a part of that event and that group with them. I thought I was done, and I keep thinking that, okay, I think I'm done. But it was just too much fun to do that. And, we felt like it was a Guinness Book of World Records monument, right? 12 different authors all writing their own books, not just a chapter in a book, but they each had their own separate book. Everything from, and Wendy was one of them. She wrote her second book as part of that. Connie wrote her second book as part of it. I wrote my 15th book as part of it. And so we had all these fabulous authors who came together, and all their very own book, all hit bestseller, all separately, independently, all on the same day. It was so much fun. And so that's how number 15 came. I think I always say that once you start, they start to flow out of you like water. And you've got different, like one of the books was a children's book that my daughter illustrated that I had written. And some of them are collaboration books. Some of them I'm just a chapter in. They're not all full 15 of just all me, but they're all something about media and marketing. That's kind of my jam.
Yeah, exactly. You want to stay in your lane and totally nail it. And you're definitely doing that in spades. So for you, have you expanded, your collaborations? I'm all into women collaborating globally to actually see where we can actually, build our businesses in ways that really bring out the strength of different partners. And what I'm meaning by that is your media, you get people, their word out, their press releases, you help them make books, but I'm assuming you must need to be working with publishers, editors, different branding specialists, or do you actually say, no, that is Angel and I do all of that now and I have my own team? How do you approach that? Do you actually make yourself bigger so that you can provide all the aspects, or do you actually collaborate with others and go, you need to see this person and we all work together?
It's a mix, Annie. So I do have some of my own team that I outsource some of those projects to, and then we have other brands, other companies that we collaborate with. And so, for example, we collaborate a lot with the Zondra TV network for doing TV interviews, doing digital ads, creating sizzle reels, videos, headshots. We have a team that we promote or use for cover designs and graphic design. I'm not a graphic designer. I can take a template and change a color. Like it's my biggest thing. We made this new thing and I'm like, this is how good my graphic design is. I can put words on a color, on a template. I was showing that to somebody today and she's like, Angel, she said, can I actually design something? I'm like, yeah, this was just me as a test product. And that's my fabulous design, words on a color template. So we have a little bit of both. So it takes a village. Yeah. And you start to discover, and I call it upstream, downstream. Like you create problems for your clients that they need. So I have somebody that I can recommend for publishing, for editing, for design, for automation and building all that. And then we are the answer. We have downstream who bring us clients. So anybody who publishes books, creates courses, is a speaker, right? Do speaker training, all of their clients need media exposure. And so I'm upstream for them. And so we all have our upstream, downstream. We all serve the same client, but we do very different things. So it's very easy to collaborate together because like you said, I stay in my lane. Right? I don't want to pretend to be good at something I'm not. This is enough for me.
You're doing it so well. I love that. I absolutely love that and respect that. And therefore, that's why you're on this show. What do you say to people who go, I'm sort of still at that phase of, should I just do it myself? What is the difference? How about we speak that out to those listening in and go, the difference when you self-publish or when you try and do your own media. I have a client who recently, wrote a book and she went, I don't know if I want to pay that, that fee. Maybe I'll do it myself. And she chose to do that. And I was disappointed in that because it's such great value to be able to go to the professionals. They're there for a reason. So how about you tell the listeners, fair enough, we all make our own decisions and often based on budget or also just a lot of the times because we've wasted money in the past and we're now more nervous and finding it more challenging to part with. What is the difference of someone who chooses to just go, okay, I'll learn on the way, but this is their big moment. This is their book. This is their blood, sweat and tears. This is their baby they're giving out to the world, to going to someone like you who can take that pain away for them.
Well, and like you said, we all have our thing, right? That, I could cut my own hair, right? But I don't. I mean, these are just certain things you want a professional's touch. But the learning curve for so many of these things, I mean, even you've seen the Instagram nailed it, right? The cookie decorating, the learning curve is, there's so much to it. And even though the price tag might seem high, it's the learning curve that person, like, there's no stress. And it's like getting a real estate agent to sell your home. And, they are going to take a significant dollar amount, even though the percentage is, but if something goes wrong, you definitely want a professional there on the other side to walk you through that and to know what they're doing. But, sometimes you just want to try it yourself, I think, because you don't really believe it's going to be that big of a project, right? Or that big of an impact. When you work with a professional, they'll help you to discover what that impact is. And we teach you how to monetize that and make that back on the other side. So back to the dollar amount with paying for a publisher, paying for publicity, paying for editing, paying for copyright. How many books do you need to sell to cover that? So for example, Becky Graff, she just published her book in December, and in her first month, she sold 750 copies of her book. If you do the math, $20 book, 750 copies, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
She's going to be okay. And when you work with somebody that can help you to promote that book and create that exposure, there's money on the other side. So don't be afraid of it. We've all spent money on things that we didn't feel like we really got the value out of. So what?
Yeah.
You could absorb it, right? Like, it's like, you're fine. You contributed to the economy. You helped somebody else in a place, maybe they needed that a little bit more. And we can't let past failures dictate our future success, right? We just have to sometimes just bite the bullet and say, you know what? I bought that lipstick. I should never wear that color, right? I bought that dress. I'm never going to wear it. Like, it's okay to have spent money on things and you didn't get the full value. That's just life.
Exactly. And sometimes it's part of the journey, and they're all stepping stones of learning curves, as you've had over your career, as I've had over my career, and those listening in. And what I mean by that is, the first time when I was doing, a book, I didn't know anything about it. So I needed that expertise. I also then learned from that. It might be when you're in 3 books later, 5 books later, you've actually applied yourself and it really interests you, and you then do want to self-publish or market or whatever. And that's understandable. And I know some people have that journey, but when you don't know what you don't know, that's right, you can be missing all of these amazing, benefits. I'm currently organizing a collaboration called a Woman's Guide to Business Domination. So it's an anthology. And so I've got, 20 ladies writing chapters at the moment for this book. And that's exactly it. I want to know that it's with, a stellar publisher, because that publisher is going to have contacts worldwide. I want to make sure that it's going to a media release, that it's going to be getting into all the right hands, because the exponential effect, particularly if you're doing a collaboration with all of those different networks and markets, you're actually wanting it to have its best opportunity, right? And then that's in book sales, but it's also in all of those other opportunities that, you've shared with us today, which are just priceless. Whereas if you self-publish or you just pop it on Amazon, the difference is, it doesn't mean that it's not a great book because it didn't sell, so many copies. It just actually means that no one knew about it. No one found it. Your song wasn't loud enough. Your song wasn't in people's ears. You could be the best kept secret, So often I hear people going, oh, well, I did something and it wasn't very good, so I'm not very good. And I'm like going, wow, no, that'd be like if I only ever went to one interview and I didn't get it and I stopped. The fact is, I might have had to go to 100, and when I snagged it and someone actually, saw the potential that I actually already had, saw the person that you were when you were working for the, PGA, then, they're actually seeing qualities that were going to be brought out, respected and honored, and they do end up being financially rewarded. They do end up being, it doesn't mean that you don't have that value to start. So those listening in, I want you to definitely, if you're in this space that you're wanting to elevate your profile, your positioning, you've got something that you want to give out to the world, how do they contact you, Angel? How do they get started and find out a little bit about what it's going to take? What's the next step of the journey?
I would love to tell you. And I want to tell you, my very first book I used a self-publishing template for the cover, Annie, and I ended up meeting somebody. We had the exact same book cover like a few years later. It was so embarrassing. It was mortifying. So yeah, use other people to help you create. So I would love to give your audience my complimentary media guide on just how to get started using the media, if publishing something in your, something you've thought about doing, some really simple steps for how to get your story put together, just to kind of just get the ball rolling. And there's some guaranteed media opportunities, a full year of headlines that you can use to pitch to the media, 52 press release ideas, just all the little nuggets to get you started. And you can get that at my website, makeyourbigImpact.com. That's makeyourbigImpact.com.
Make your big impact. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what we want to do. We want to have big impact, don't we? So makeyourbigImpact.com. Awesome freebies. I'm going to be checking them out myself. I'm going to be sharing that with my tribe, the Women's Business Tribe. Make sure that people know about what's available there. And then I also know that as well as the freebies, check out check out more after you've listened in about her profile, the variety of things that she offers different people. And then, yeah, be able to have, take that next step and at least have a conversation, share what you would, what you dream. It's about realizing your dreams. We all have those inner dreams. I love it that, what was it? 83 or 86% of people think they've got a book in them. Yeah. I would believe that. So many people go, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. Well, rather than always wanted to, maybe you just actually go, hey, I'm actually going to, even if, one of them, like my twin book, might take 30 years to have actually thought about it. But you know what? Never too late. I'm 54 and I'm just pumping out books right, left and center at the moment. So, just if it's on your heart and you actually see that it's something for you to do, something for you to contribute to the world, something that is actually going to elevate your presence. That's what this conversation has been about. Saying, it doesn't matter what business you have, those people who are doing my startup incubator, scaling up incubator, or business domination incubator, all of you will need to have resources that actually brand you in the global market as an authority in your niche. And what better way than to write a book, get it published, start building a bit of a presence that is global, because you want that passive income. You want to be getting people attracted to you. You want them finding you. And Angel is definitely a queen at being able to help you do that. I've experienced it myself. And so I thank you so much for being on my program today. And I look forward to people reaching out to you in the week, in the coming months. I look forward to seeing how many books you're actually going to write in your career too. I'm going to keep following you. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, thank you. This has been such a joy, such a pleasure to connect with you. I remember when your book came out, the first one, and just learning about you and in a way that you never would in many other cases get to a time where you would share all of those stories. And so your story is impressive, what you are doing. You are a leader. I love that you are creating a platform for women to go out and have their voice just be even bigger and in a safe and fun environment. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely keep it fun. Terrific. Thank you so much. And all the best for your future success.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes and, of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.